The Android version of Super Mario Run came out this week, giving Nintendo's flagship platformer a second chance to make up some revenue in the mobile market. In spite of being the first Mario game developed for the mobile platform, Super Mario Run has lagged behind Fire Emblem Heroes, its less well-known counterpart, thanks largely to its traditional monetization model. Rather than endless opportunities for microtransactions, Super Mario Run offers the full game and presumably any future updates for a one-time purchase of $10. One would think that fans of mobile games would welcome such a straightforward purchase. There are no stamina mechanics asking you to throw $1 at the game every time you want to sit down for a long playthrough, and no asking you to spend real money on random drawings for a chance at something you might want. You pay for the game, and that's that. And yet the game is not meeting Nintendo's sales expectations, with only 5% of downloads resulting in a sale. While plenty of people seem to be enjoying the game, a not insignificant subset of mobile users have taken issue with the more traditional monetization method, so much so that the game is being called a rip-off and Nintendo a greedy company for using the flat-rate sale. Now I can see where some people might balk at a $10 price point, and Nintendo certainly has a history of overpricing their digital games, but it is an unusual complaint when, in comparison, it costs roughly $10 to buy 5 random characters in Fire Emblem Heroes. Sure, you can and should use earned in-game currency instead, but that doesn't change the value proposition. It's very strange as a PC and console gamer to see people complaining about coughing up $10 for a Mario game, which lets you try the first world for free. You don't have to blind buy it or follow reviews before deciding if it's a worthy purchase. That's a better deal than you'll ever see on Nintendo's own eShop, and even Steam's 2-hour refund policy isn't that user-friendly. On the other hand, that is the ecosystem that mobile gamers are used to. The ability to pay or not pay whatever you want is apparently an important feature, even if it means holding the game back or getting nickeled and dimed in the long run. It just goes to show how attitudes surrounding the console and mobile markets are very different. I think there's a lot to be said about the newer mobile market and its dependence on whales willing and able to pay excess amounts on a game in order to subsidize a free version for everybody. This kind of attitude seems particularly relevant since it developed in an environment where income inequality keeps getting worse. But that's a much longer video than I feel like making today. In other Nintendo news, speaking of giving people a free taste of a game, Nintendo held their Testfire run for Splatoon 2 this weekend. For a few select hours, Switch owners got to try out Splatoon 2 on a couple of maps, and yeah, it plays pretty much just like the original. Not really much else to report. The new dual pistols come with a dodge roll that makes them stupidly effective against the Splat Charger, and the default Splat Charger's loadout comes with an ultimate that looks far more impressive than it actually is, but it's still a good time. Over in movie news, Warner Bros. Is desperately trying to convince moviegoers to give them a third or fourth chance with their DC Cinematic Universe with the first full trailer for Justice League. The trailer is good, but then they usually are. Meanwhile, Sony tried to grab some attention for Spider-Man Homecoming by tweeting out images of movie posters. It's pretty cute that they made a special note of putting Avengers Tower into every shot, but otherwise they're really nothing to write home about either. As far as movies closer to release, Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is the gold standard in Japanese cyberpunk drama, which kind of makes you wonder why they're marketing it as Scarlett Johansson playing a robot Jason Bourne. And speaking of weird Japanese stuff hitting PC this week, there's Operation Abyss: New Tokyo Legacy. Steam says it's a dungeon crawler, but as far as the trailer is concerned, it may as well be a visual novel. Meanwhile, if Breath of the Wild wasn't enough like a traditional Zelda for you, Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King looks like a more advanced version of Link to the Past with some neat mechanics that the original never thought up. Next up, Bomb Squad Academy looks to be your typical minimalist puzzle game, but putting the puzzles in the guise of bombs to be defused makes it much more interesting. For something more fantastical, Rain World is a spiffy-looking 2D platformer that puts you in the role of a slug cat looking for safety in a crazy and dangerous environment. Manipulated, on the other hand, is a 2D platformer that has piqued my interest on the trailer alone, even without showing much actual gameplay. For For tower defense this week, Warstone TD claims to be adding something new to the genre, though I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be. Next up, Beat Cop is a neat-looking pixel art game that has you going on a point-and-click adventure in the setting of an 80s cop show. I'm not generally into point-and-click adventures, but this looks pretty cool. And oddly enough, Beat Cop isn't the only pixel art point-and-click murder mystery to come out this week. The difference is, in Thimbleweed Park, instead of a 1980s cop, you seem to play a foul-mouthed clown, and maybe a ghost. And finally, our RPG Maker entry for this week is Chronicles of a Dark Lord: Tides of Fate Remastered. I'd talk more about it, but just saying the title has used up the game's allocated word budget. That brings us to this week's awesome video. It's been a while since we've heard from Smooth McGrew, but this week he released his version of the haunting music from Super Metroid's Brinstar Zone. That's everything for this week, so how do you feel about Super Mario Run forgoing the microtransaction model? Do you think it's a good idea, or is it too much for a mobile game? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, pass this video around to your friends, and have a great week!